This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Shutdown, showdown. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast.
Government shutdown. Nobody wants that, and certainly not around this time.
House Republicans have killed the bill, a massive spending plan that would have averted a government shutdown this weekend. Florida's Kat Cammack says the bipartisan deal was bad news for the country.
This is a Band-Aid that is laced with fentanyl. It's going to feel really good for the very first week. And then people are going to realize that they just compromised and sold their children's future down the river because it is absolutely bloated pork barrel spending.
Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries says the GOP was pressured by President-elect Trump and billionaire Elon Musk to ditch the deal.
House Republicans have been ordered to shut down the government and hurt everyday Americans all across this country.
Jeffries says the GOP will own any harm done by a government shutdown. A big reason for the impasse is the pay raise that politicians gave themselves.
We're not doing our job right now. That's clear. And so where I come from, you don't do your job, you don't get paid, let alone get a raise.
The spending plan included $100 billion in disaster relief for the hurricane-wrecked South, but it also had in it government pork, like funding to build a new NFL stadium in the nation's capital. Just days before Christmas, and thousands of Amazon workers are on strike.
We're out here striking for a better job. You feel me? We need better job, better pay, better benefits. We need a safer condition.
Correspondent Todd Pyro.
Teamsters President Sean O'Brien saying, quote, if your package is delayed during the holidays, you can blame Amazon's insatiable greed.
The Teamsters Union says the workers will strike at Amazon distribution centers across the country, including New York City, Atlanta, and San Francisco. Reporter Nancy Chen gets reaction from Amazon.
In a written statement, an Amazon spokesperson said in part, for more than a year now, the Teamsters have continued to intentionally mislead the public, claiming that they represent thousands of Amazon employees and drivers. They don't.
This is the largest strike against Amazon in U.S. history and comes less than a week before Christmas. If you booked your holiday getaway flight today, hoping to avoid the crush of Christmas traffic this weekend, well, forget about it. Aviation expert Chris Van Cleve.
The airlines expect the travel rush to begin, and the FAA says it will also be the busiest day in the air for scheduled flights. More than 50,000 scheduled to take off.
Luigi Mangione is about to take off to New York. He's waiving extradition. The 26-year-old accused assassin being transferred from a jail in Altoona to New York City. Mangione facing murder and terrorism charges in connection to the sidewalk shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Police in California have detained a 20-year-old man. They say this guy was texting the Christian school shooter in Madison, Wisconsin, about a coordinated attack on a government building.
Alexander Pfaffendorf of Carlsbad admitted to the FBI he shared his plans with a teenage shooter. Police in Wisconsin hoping the messages between the two will provide insight to her motives for the shooting that wounded 6 and left 3 dead, including herself.
Sue Guzman with Fox News. California is the first state to declare a state of emergency over the bird flu.
More than half of the 61 human cases nationwide have been in California, with most of them in farm workers exposed to infected cattle. We learned about the first severe case of bird flu in the U.S. It's a Louisiana patient who was hospitalized after being exposed to sick, dead birds. Health officials say so far the virus hasn't been spread from person to person.
CBS's Nora O'Donnell. The U.S. Supreme Court will hear TikTok's argument against a federal law requiring it divest from Chinese ownership or face banishment here in the States.
If the U.S. government wins this argument, it pretty much guarantees that TikTok will be banned on January 19th. For years now, the U.S. government has been arguing that TikTok is a national security risk, but it hasn't shared the information that it has publicly.
CNET's Ian Shure. An ominous warning today about communist China and its ever-expanding nuclear arsenal.
In 10 years, China is expected to have about 1,500 nuclear warheads. That's the same number the U.S. military deploys right now. The U.S. does not have any arms control treaties with Beijing. The Pentagon says China currently has 600 operational nuclear warheads and will have 1,000 by 2030. About half of these warheads are in missile silos across 3 bases in central China.
Correspondent Lucas Tomlinson. The FAA has issued a temporary ban on flying drones in several areas of New Jersey, at least through January 17th. The Garden State is ground zero in the recent uproar over these unidentified flying objects. The White House is confident there's no threat to the public. Here's some good news. People are living longer. In fact, life expectancy in these United States is the highest it's been since before the pandemic.
A report out today from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention found life expectancy at birth averaged 78.4 years in 2023, nearly a year longer than in 2022. Experts say some of the boost is a recovery from the big hit life expectancy took when more than 1 million Americans lost their lives to COVID. Overdose deaths also fell slightly. I'm Michael Kastner.
Thank you, Michael. Still to come on the Noon Report for Thursday. Influenza in the Empire State. Bitter cold on the way and a jaw-dropping find in the Hudson Valley.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. Some wintry weather is on the way. Your forecast is coming up. That's in 10 minutes.
All right, Kevin, with the bitter cold on the way, $20 million is going to Buffalo, New York to help the Queen City cope with extreme weather. The funding is part of the Inflation Reduction Act and will be used to help neighborhoods prepare for future weather emergencies. Lows on Sunday and Monday will dip into the single digits across New York and Pennsylvania. New York's minimum wage is going up in a couple of weeks. Family Life's Dee Haley.
Some New Yorkers will be getting a raise on January 1st as New York State's minimum wage is set to increase by 50 cents an hour. The minimum wage will be $16.50 per hour in New York City, Long Island, and in Westchester, and $15.50 an hour for the rest of the state. This is part of a multi-year state plan to help workers with the rising cost of living. As the minimum wage increases, however, the cost of living is also expected to rise. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
The New York Health Department says the spread of flu is now prevalent in the Empire State. That means healthcare workers who are not vaccinated must wear masks at state-regulated facilities. In New York, flu cases are rising by 75% a week. There are currently about 25,000 positive cases in the state. Syracuse City Schools and SUNY are teaming up to provide more mental health services to students. A 5-year program that starts next month will offer kids support through both telehealth appointments and on-site clinics.
Our students experience multiple challenges before they walk into our school doors. And so being able to provide comprehensive, high-quality mental health services for students is going to have such a tremendous impact.
Terry Bowers is director of mental health for the Syracuse School District. Last year, there were over 300 cases of students in the Syracuse district experiencing suicidal ideation. New data from the federal government shows a significant increase in the number of homeless families in New York.
So many families are in crisis.
That's Kim Hunt. She runs Family Promise, which assists those on the brink of homelessness in the city of Rochester.
We always ask the question, where did you stay last night? And it's very common now to hear, I slept in my truck, or we had one family sleeping in a U-Haul truck before they came into our shelter, or I'm sleeping outside, or I'm sleeping on someone's porch with their children.
There's been a 25% increase in the number of homeless families in Monroe County in just the past year. 1 in 5 children in New York live in poverty. Bob Casey Jr. is about to bow out of politics after nearly 3 decades of public service in Pennsylvania, first as a state official and then as a U.S. Senator.
Look, I've been fortunate to serve the people of our state for 28 years. consecutively. That's pretty rare, and to serve here for 18 years. So I have a lot of gratitude in my heart as I close my time in the Senate.
Casey was state treasurer and auditor general before he became a U.S. senator in 2006. His dad was the governor of Pennsylvania from 1987 to 1995. Casey's successor, Republican Dave McCormick, will be sworn in on January 3rd. New York's considering a CEO hotline where company executives can report threats to their life. Family Life, Sarah Harnish.
It's following the death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. New York Governor Kathy Hochul says she's invited the Department of Homeland Security and counterterrorism officials to join the discussion when she meets with 175 corporate representatives statewide. The goal, to share information and keep CEOs safe in the Empire State. No date yet on that meeting or the hotline. Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
All right, very interesting. Thank you, Sarah. Governor Hochul is being coy about a possible pardon of President-elect Trump after a judge denied his bid to drop his hush money case.
No one will be treated any better or any worse by me when I make those life-altering decisions, as we're looking at petitions that are coming in throughout the year. So no one gets extra favors. No one gets treated worse.
Trump's argued the charges should be dropped on presidential immunity grounds. Pennsylvania's rail industry is getting an upgrade. $55 million will go into improving rail service in the Commonwealth. PennDOT says the projects are meant to beef up infrastructure and enhance freight mobility. 30 rail renovation projects are planned in York, Berks, Lycoming, and Northumberland counties. Pennsylvania's Porky the Pig, who was wanted by police for several weeks, is finally in custody. This elusive little porker had the Bensalem Township police going hog wild. People made it even harder to catch him by feeding Porky and taking photos of the pig. The slippery swine will be taken to a pig farm where he'll get the royal treatment before being put up for adoption. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's weighing in on the landscape of college football. With its transfer portals and NIL money, the game has definitely changed in recent years. Shapiro says he has real concerns about the money and player movement and suggests collegiate athletics is the Wild West right now.
What worries me is that these colleges and universities aren't homes for student athletes for several years, but rather for a season, and then they move somewhere else. I think we've got to really examine whether the transfer portal combined with the NIL and really unlimited resources that goes into it, is that really the best answer?
Penn State's backup quarterback says he's entering the transfer portal next year. The Nittany Lions are seeded number 6 in the college football playoffs. They host number 11 SMU on Saturday at noon at Beaver Stadium. We've got more sports next. It's the 2-minute drill on Family Life.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, the Philadelphia Flyers are trending in the wrong direction. They dropped their second straight game and 5th of their last 7 last night, 6-4 to the Red Wings. Travis Konechny opened the scoring. Then Noah Cates, Ryan Poehling, and Owen Tippett also found the back of the net, but it was not enough. The Flyers now 14-4 on the season. The Maple Leafs skated past the Stars 5-3. Florida was all over the Wild 6-1. Utah edged Vancouver in overtime 3-2. And the Ducks were also 3-2 winners over Winnipeg. The New York Rangers are trying to shake up their season. They have acquired defenseman Will Borgen for a 3rd and 6th round pick in the 2025 draft. They traded Capo Keiko. The Kraken are getting a forward who has scored 131 points in 330 career games. So this ended up being defense for offense or offense for defense, depending on which end of the trade you're looking at.
it should be beneficial to both teams. Hey, let's talk baseball. 8-time All-Star Nolan Arenado has nixed a trade to the Houston Astros. The Cardinals' third baseman has a no-trade clause in his contract, and he apparently wants no part of the Astros. Arenado has listed 6 teams he is willing to be traded to, and his agent has said there are more teams on the list. The 33-year-old Arenado wants to go somewhere where he feels the team has a bona fide shot at winning a championship. Or he could just end up playing for St. Louis again next season. That is a look at sports.
I'm sure you wouldn't mind that at all, Randy Snavely, being the Cardinals fan that you are. And still to come on the Noon Report, on strike at Amazon, no deal on Capitol Hill, and new twist in the school shooting.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. The sheer evil of a violent attack or a mass shooting, such as what occurred at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin earlier this week, elicits a number of appropriate responses. We rightly mourn the victims. We marvel incredulously that a second grader made the 911 call. We grieve with and for the parents who had no sense that they would lose a child just weeks before Christmas. We wonder how anyone, especially a 15-year-old girl, could harbor such hate and hopelessness. But there are also inappropriate, albeit understandable reactions. When people are afraid, they'll often either lash out against those they perceive to be the enemies on the other side, or they look for something, anything that can fix what it is they fear. Both of these reactions have been on full display since Monday. Quote, "We need action, legislation, and laws to make sure that guns don't get into the hands of people who don't have them," one Madison resident told CNN. "It's unacceptable that we're unable to protect our children from the scourge of gun violence," President Biden said in a statement. "We need Congress to act now." This kind of cry to do something is very common at times like this. Do something is in fact a cry for help, but it's not a strategy and it's not a tactic. You see, doing something isn't helpful if that something is wrong or mistaken or irrelevant. In fact, doing something might even make matters worse. We have to know what to do, and that requires that we're clear on what the problem is, what the solution is, and who's able to accomplish that something or some things that so need to be done. Until now, mass shootings at schools and elsewhere have largely been perpetrated by alienated, often fatherless young men who espouse either hateful extremism or nihilistic meaninglessness. Monday's shooter was a young woman, and according to her own words, was broken by a broken family and captivated by that same meaninglessness that led her to hate people and herself. This is not a problem that was caused by the government, and it's not a problem that government can fix. Our tendency to think that all problems should be politically understood or politically motivated and can only be politically fixed is symptomatic of the political illusion, a social condition from which our culture suffers greatly. But no policy, no political ideology, no bureaucracy can heal the epidemic of our age. It's an epidemic of meaninglessness. It's an epidemic of wounded hearts and minds. Nor can a policy, political ideology, or bureaucracy rebuild the mediating institutions of civil society that most fundamentally shape us and provide the meaning and sense of belonging that we all crave. And by the way, the government can't overcome hatred with love either. These are tasks that belong instead to other institutions that have long been dismissed and dismantled across Western culture, the family and the church. As Thane Bellamo of The Federalist noted years ago, the decline of these institutions is mirrored not only in the rise in mass shooters, but, quote, more broadly in a host of statistics that reveal an epidemic of despair, end quote. Years ago, Chuck Colson said these words, "Where is the hope? The hope that each of us have is not in who governs us or what laws are passed or what great things that we do as a nation. Our hope is in the power of God working through the hearts of people. And that's where our hope is in this country. That's where our hope is in life." That is the something that we must do. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint. And for more resources to live like a Christian today, go to breakpoint.org.
Thank you, John. Outside we go next. Kevin Williams.
Good afternoon. Here's your family life weather forecast. Our forecast for this afternoon: considerable cloudiness, a few scattered flurries and snow showers, highs in the 30s, dropping tonight into the 20s. We'll have snow tomorrow, and much of the area can expect an inch or 2 or 3 with high temps in the 30s. Colder tomorrow night and Saturday with areas of lake snow and flurries. Otherwise, mostly cloudy skies away from lake influences. High temperatures on Saturday only in the 20s. High temperatures Sunday mostly in the teens.
All right, bundle up if you're heading out. This is the Noon Report. I'm your host, Bob Price, and here's what's going on Thursday, December 19th. The government shutdown looms large on Capitol Hill after Speaker Johnson's bipartisan spending plan was shot down by House Republicans. Correspondent Ryan Nobles.
In the span of just a few hours, a massive bipartisan spending deal agreed to by leaders in both the House and Senate went from being on a glide path to passage to dead on arrival, killed by President-elect Trump, urged on by his influential advisor, billionaire Elon Musk. Now, Congress is racing to avoid a shutdown, which would halt some government services and leave many federal workers and military members without a paycheck around the holidays.
Florida Republican Kat Cammack says conservatives were right to ditch the deal.
Why in the world would we include a wish list of non-paid-for spending? It makes absolutely no sense.
The package included a pay raise for politicians and $100 billion for the hurricane-wrecked South. With Christmas fast approaching, thousands of Amazon workers are on strike today. Organized by the Teamsters Union, it accuses Amazon of not bargaining in good faith. Union boss Randy Corgan.
They claim that those contractors, the so-called contractors that deliver for them, those drivers, that they're not their employees, yet they have an Amazon van. They have the Amazon uniform.
Business analyst Liz Bentley says the job action may not impact the holiday spending too much.
Something to put into perspective is that the Teamsters are 10,000 people. Amazon employees are 1.5 million. So according to Amazon, they're saying this is a small group of people by comparison to their entire organization, and they have a lot of drivers and people that can sub in.
Picket lines have formed today outside distribution centers in New York, Illinois, Atlanta, and San Francisco. Healthcare shooting suspect Luigi Mangione could be back in New York as soon as today. He's waiving extradition from Pennsylvania. Mangione facing murder and terrorism charges in connection to the shooting death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Meantime, a disturbing new poll out today finds 41% of young Americans think that murder was acceptable.
Emerson College surveyed 1,000 people last week, and the poll shows 24% of those ages 18 to 29 say the execution-style killing was somewhat acceptable, while 17% in that age range say it was totally acceptable. There has been some anger towards the healthcare industry and praise for the alleged killer on social media since Brian Thompson was murdered earlier this month. 68% of all respondents found the killing unacceptable.
Scott Pringle reporting a new twist today in this week's deadly school shooting in Madison, Wisconsin. Police say the 15-year-old female shooter may have planned a coordinated attack with a 20-year-old man in California. That plan apparently involved shooting up a government building. The California man was detained last night. The Wisconsin killer shot herself to death on Monday, but not before she took the life of a substitute teacher and a 14-year-old student. Texas-based American Airlines has agreed to end a controversial diversity program known as DEI.
DEI has been tried over the past 20 years, and one of the things that we know is that it doesn't work.
Sherry Sylvester with the Texas Public Policy Foundation says a growing number of companies are ditching DEI.
Making people hyper-conscious about the race of their fellow workers do not make for a better workforce. They make the workplace tenser, and it breeds tension and frustration.
American joins Walmart and John Deere in rolling back DEI programs. programs. The rush is on at the airport. That's where we find reporter Chris Van Clee.
The FAA says the start of the end-of-the-year holiday travel period today will see the most scheduled flights between now and December 28th.
How many flights? Well, today alone, more than 50,000 are scheduled to take off. Did you know the month of December is the most popular month to get engaged? Bree Tennis has our report.
Wedding site TheKnot.com says 37% of all engagements take place between November and February. But the bulk of proposals, they say, will happen this month because December is romantic. Family and friends are around and there's a general feeling of celebration. Statistically, Christmas engagements work out just as well as any other and come with an 80 to 90% acceptance rate. But no pressure. I'm Bree Tennis.
All right, Bree, thank you very much. And you're listening to the Noon Report for Thursday on Family Life.
It's Faith Under Fire from Family Life News, when we invite you to listen to the voices from religious battlefields in this nation and in our area. I'm Greg Gillespie, and today we go to Central Pennsylvania. Parents in Christian schools there are awaiting a decision on a religious rights lawsuit against a public school district which is prohibiting parochial school students from access to extracurricular activities in the taxpayer-funded schools. Their attorney is Pennsylvania-based Thomas Breath, who I spoke to about the state law and this lawsuit in State College, Pennsylvania.
So in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, homeschool students and charter school students are permitted to participate in activities at their public school district of residence. So if I live in a school district, but I attend a charter school somewhere outside the school district or within the district, or if I'm a homeschool student, I'm permitted to participate in my homeschool district's activities, including extracurricular activities, co-curricular activities, tutoring, Spanish club, the band, the soccer team. They will not permit similarly situated parochial school students access to those same activities. They've refused to let them participate on an equal basis. So we filed a suit in the U.S. District Court for the Middle District of Pennsylvania. The case is the Religious Rights Foundation of Pennsylvania. Their parents and students named as also plaintiffs versus the State College Area School District, which is the public school district that encompasses Penn State University, etc. We've had an initial ruling from the judge in response to a motion to dismiss that was extremely favorable. The judge gets it, we believe, supported our First Amendment and 14th Amendment arguments. So we're set to complete discovery, and I anticipate that we'll have a final decision from the Middle District sometime this spring to early summer. And it's our hope and our goal that we'll be able to permit parochial school students. They can still attend their parochial school. They can still receive education based upon their religious beliefs and the goals that they have to further their religion. But they'll also have an opportunity if they want to take tutoring or if they want to participate in the band or the musical or the soccer team or the football team. They'll still have the ability to do that, an ability that, quite honestly, a lot of these parochial schools don't have the ability to offer to their students. And as taxpayers and residents of these public schools, they most certainly should have the ability to take advantage of those opportunities to whatever level they wish to and not be discriminated against just because they're seeking their education in a religious context.
As I look in from the outside, can I ask you, what's the motivation, what's the contention that the school district has that says, well, of course we can't allow these students to do that?
Their justification, and it's interesting, the justification that they put forth was twofold. One, that they have enough students that are enrolled in their school district to fill their needs. And two, that if they permit a parochial school student to participate, they may take the spot of one of their students. So we might have a good soccer player that might make the team and one of the State College School District students won't make the team. That same rationale applies to homeschool students and to charter school students. So to me, unfortunately, I think that's just an excuse. There's some, in my opinion, some open hostility towards students and parents that leave the public school system and seek to have their children educated based upon their religious beliefs. Still to this day, I think there's a clear underlying discrimination against those students, that somehow there's something wrong with them because they're putting their religious beliefs above their desire to attend a public school district.
Attorney Thomas Breath, who lives and works in Pennsylvania and is networked with the Thomas More Society, bringing suit against the State College Area School District. Family Life News has reached out to the school district to ask for an interview, but their communications director tells me that the district does not comment on pending litigation. Thomas Breath is also the attorney for 3 Western Pennsylvania schools that won a case that they brought against the Pennsylvania State Education Department, and information about that case is also posted on the Family Life Faith Under Fire podcast page. I'm Greg Gillespie, Family Life News.
Greg, thank you very much for that. And coming up on the Noon Report, an archaeological treasure trove in Orange County, New York.
Good afternoon. Here's your Family Life regional weather forecast. We have some wintry weather ahead of us. We're watching a disturbance moving out of the Chicago area. It's going to produce snow here late tonight and tomorrow. It will also be the conduit to carry bitterly cold air into the region this weekend. Our forecast for this afternoon, considerable cloudiness, a few scattered flurries and snow showers, highs in the 30s, dropping tonight into the 20s. We'll have snow tomorrow, and much of the area can expect an inch or 2 or 3 with high temps in the 30s. Colder tomorrow night and Saturday with areas of lake snow and flurries. Otherwise, mostly cloudy skies away from the lake influences. High temperatures on Saturday only in the 20s. High temperatures Sunday mostly in the teens.
All right, Kevin, thank you. And finally at noon, in New York's Hudson Valley, researchers have discovered the full intact jawbone of a mastodon. Melissa Colorado with News 4 has more from Scotchtown in Orange County.
A backyard in Orange County turned into an archaeological dig after a homeowner called in a team of researchers to find out what was lurking beneath his property.
That's a lucky neighbor. That's pretty cool.
It turns out those teeth poking from the ground were part of this mastodon jaw, believed to be 13,000 years old.
How about that? The homeowner found 4 teeth in his backyard. That's when he called in the experts who did a lot more digging. And not only did they find that intact jaw, they also discovered some ribs and toes. Mastodons, by the way, are elephant-like creatures that lived during the Ice Age. And that's our world, the world we live in. Thursday, December 19th. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.